Oh, you're welcome.
You're
Well,
welcome.
thank
You're
you.
welcome, and thank you.
Doreen, I think a good place to start is maybe at the beginning. I'm sort of curious about your background and if you had music in your home when you were growing up.
Yes, I studied piano, classical piano, for many, many years. Started at 5 years old. And how I met Vic, my parents had moved to a small village called Riley, Alberta. And I started my grade 10. I was 14 years of age. And one of the kids knew I played the piano, so I was playing Oh Baby Mine. I still remember the song. And it was popular at that time. And lo and behold, if this red-haired guy stood by the piano, and that red-haired guy was Vic. And I didn't know him, but somehow or other, he loved my music, and I didn't know he was a musician either until later. And our love affair started probably about then, and we enjoyed our music. And then when I finished high school, we got married. And we were both musicians, but Vic was also a fabulous salesman. He convinced me to get married, so yeah. So he was a great salesman. And we started Lillo's music 60 years ago in July of 1963. And Vic rented 2 rooms in Edmonton here on the second floor. And we had signs printed, so Lillo's School of Modern Music Limited. And we both taught. Firstly, he went through the area and delivered flyers, and still no business. But we finally got a bit of business, and he did a lot of gigs over the summer just to pull us through financially. So we basically started with nothing, just him and me. And
Dad went door to door.
He did. He went door to door
in the neighborhood to meet people and tell them about this great music school that was starting up.
And so we did get a bit of business, and then as it grew, I was able to use that other room. We bought another piano, just old piano, 2 pianos, because he was a fabulous piano player as well as saxophone player. He played all instruments. And then he started bringing in product just into his room up there, but the music school really grew, and so we had to get out of that area and came right to White Avenue, and
which was still in the same block. It was just around the corner.
That's right.
So Mom and Dad actually have had the store in the same block for 60 years.
That's right.
So this whole city knows that this is Lillo's music. This is where we are.
That is right. That's correct, Corinne. And and then the babies were coming, and I'd be bringing them to work, and so they actually grew up here. Corinne grew up in this place, and learned the business.
Yeah.
And now she's so.
Yeah.
And sadly, my love of my life passed away in February the 12th at 6:42 in the morning, and I held his hand till the end. But he had gotten COVID, and that's what took him out, which I'm very sad. I cry every day for him. So the grieving is tough. But what makes me happy is to see that Lillo's music is still here. And yes.
Well, my heart goes out to you for sure, Mrs. Lillo. What a pleasure it was to meet and interview your husband at the NAMM show some years back. And of course, when we were thinking about adding him to the tribute, we thought this is a very important thing for us to do. But the dilemma was, how can we put in all of what he's done in music in 2 sentences in the tribute? And I thought the best way to do it is just to say, hey, hey, hey.
That's right. That's right.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah. Well, he even did that when I first met him when I was in grade 10. This his hey, hey, hey. He was just so positive. He was born with a smile. That, I swear it. And of course that's what attracted me was him, and he was a great salesman. So, and I fell for him hook, line, and sinker, and never regretted it once. We've had a love affair all the time. And even when he was so sick, our son had his camera there and took a picture of him, and he asked Vic, he said, what do you have to say to Mom? And the only thing he said was, I love your mom. And I loved him so dearly. So it's a big loss for me.
Of course it is. For the whole industry. And I just keep thinking, how many people, we can't even count, we can't even begin to count how many people he affected in music.
Oh,
and the same
yes.
could be said about you. I think it's a very important thing that we have a great appreciation for the mom and pops
Yeah.
of our
Yes.
industry.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
And-
yeah, because Lillo's music, you would see Dad, but really Lillo's music was Mom and Dad.
Well, in order for him to go to the trade show, I looked after the store because we had other staff. And also, our 4 children worked here. We had 2 girls and 2 boys, and Corinne now runs it. And I'm working with her because I can't stay home. I have to come here. At least this gives me some happiness.
Yeah, plus
being
all
here.
of our old customers and generations of customers. And, yeah, it's really great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
Mrs. Lillo, you remind me of one of the first retailers I went out to interview when I started this job 24 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I had more hair then. And I just remember I was talking to the husband, and he had this great story, just as your husband did. And then I asked the wife if I could talk to her, and she goes, "Oh, I don't do much." And the husband said, "Oh no, she doesn't do much. She just runs the books, runs the business, runs the store, runs."
Yeah,
Yeah, runs it
that's
all.
I know
Yeah.
exactly. And also, you end up being the janitor too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Well,
everything.
I wonder, when you and your husband first started, it sounds like it was a little slow at first.
Oh, it
but
was.
What do you think were some of the reasons why business picked up? What were some of the reasons for the success?
I think it was my husband going door to door, and if there was a piano there, he'd sit down and play, and he'd play something that was in that era modern, and that's, I think, what really helped, you know, so, and then I kept the home front going always for him. Yeah.
Plus, that was, you know, in the 60s when kind of music was just blossoming. So all of a sudden there's such great interest in popular piano and guitar and all
Bass
these other,
guitar and
bass guitar,
drums.
all these instruments.
But
So,
Vic also knew how, he had studied drums. He knew drums as well and studied guitar. He really, he was very fortunate in his family that, you know, that they could afford all these lessons, because he would come up by the bus to Edmonton and take the lessons.
as
so
a
that-
young boy.
As a young guy, you know, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was always, and he was always wanting to learn. And that's the same with me. You know, like I had my big background in classical piano, but then I had to pick up popular piano and jazz as well. So, which I did. So, you know, which gave us a good scope, you know, boogie woogie, Latin American and all that stuff. So that really helped.
Yeah,
And I'm
and-
kind of wondering, what is your approach to teaching?
Lots of patience.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Lots
it's
of
also
patience.
finding out what the student wants to do.
That's true.
And
yeah.
to keep it interesting for them, and sometimes it might be slow, and sometimes even a music lesson might be just almost like a therapy class that the student gets to do music, but all of a sudden starts confiding in you about different things. Like it's, yeah,
That
we
is
try to make
great.
it a very positive
absolutely,
experience for
and,
people that they want to keep coming back for more lessons.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah, it's being positive with the student, not snapping their fingers or anything like that. Just being really positive and happy. And I think that...
And encouraging,
yeah.
so they know that, hey, you know, you didn't practice this week. Well, that's okay. Let's
Yeah.
run through it then.
go through it and...
Let's have some fun.
yeah, and usually I think the students were happy to, especially in the popular piano, you know, doing stuff that they're familiar with. I think that's really helped, you know, and that doing a lot of chord construction, learning all your majors, minors, diminished, augmented, whatever,
Yeah.
slatted fifths, ninths, or whatever. They seem to just suck it in, you know, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's
And,
really neat.
and then thinking back too with mom and dad starting, so it was mom and dad, they were the main teachers, but things kept expanding. So their first guitar teacher, besides dad, it was a woman. So,
Yes,
you know,
it
and I think
was.
it's important that,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
at that
true.
time that women were, you know, right part of this business and
That's
industry.
right. And how he got her, he was walking door to door saying that, you know, we have a music school, and her name was Lynn, and she said, oh, well, she plays guitar, and showed Vic just how she could play, and she could read music. She was very good, and that's,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
another woman.
Another woman. And then over the years, mom and dad have had lots and lots of different teachers. And
That's right.
eventually dad stopped teaching. Mom continued teaching and, like you said, did everything in
Oh,
the
the
business.
books,
all of it,
everything.
all of it.
Yeah.
And dad was focusing more on the retail and wholesale,
And all
kinds of different
all
things.
his sales and,
Yeah.
you know, making
Yeah.
all the orders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he
And
did.
customers were kind of the main thing to, you know, keep people happy and just satisfy their whatever they needed. So
Absolutely, that's really awesome. So I also was curious about the early days of when the school became a store. What were some of the products that you first took on?
Well, we got Gibson guitars, no problem. And eventually, I think the only products were Gibson guitars, Fender guitars, and Vic always liked quality. So we always got quality instruments in. And we started very small. Back then, you know, like even ordering one guitar, you know, we could do that, and two guitars, and then maybe we needed a drum set and a small amp. So we started very small. And we actually started probably the second year that we were operating the music school, bringing in stuff. Vic was all hepped up. He and I was too, to bring the stuff in and see what we could do here. You know, and so that's how we got started.
That's wonderful. And now to talk to your daughter for a minute, what was it like growing up in this store?
oh, it's great. It was lots of fun because that was the one thing that dad always liked to do. He always liked to have fun because he was kind of a jokester. So we brought the globe here because one of the things that he would do is customers would buy things, you know, from the store, and dad would like to celebrate with them. So then they'd go into the back office where my dad's office was, and so he had the globe, he had some bird sounds in the wall, he even had a mirror ball in there at one time, and flashing lights. So then what he'd do, he'd go, okay, let's spin the globe. So then he'd spin the globe and bang the desk, the lights would be flashing, and then the customer would probably never forget that they bought something at the store because it was such a great celebration.
Yeah.
So that was always a highlight.
And it was fun for me too. Like he was just such a wonderful person. Like, you know, he was always so patient, even with raising the children. And he's patient and kind. He was just a wonderful husband, and I worked with him all the time. We drove in the car together, coming to work, worked together, and did all kinds of stuff together, and then drove home again. And then
Yeah, and then I think in my brother Les's interview, he's also told you that we had a family band as well. So besides working in the store, then we'd be doing gigs or practices or all kind. Our whole life has always been music. So that's
true.
very important.
That's true. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, can we talk about your kids?
Yes.
I know one of them is right next to you, and
Yeah,
I've
that's right.
interviewed two others, I think. Can you tell us about them?
Yes. Well, the one son is living in San Diego. That's Les. And then the other one is Vic. We named him after his dad. And he lives here in Edmonton. And then we have a daughter, Danielle, and she's living in Kelowna, BC. And they're all musicians. Yeah.
Yeah,
they
and
are.
we've all worked in the store.
Everyone.
all of us have worked in the store, and Vic and my sister Danielle have kids who also have all worked in the store.
Yeah,
so.
the grandchildren have
Yeah.
worked here.
Yeah,
But, you know, they're all going out on their own. So, you know, not everybody wants to run a business, which is not just 8 hours a day. It's 14, 15 hours a day.
And I think what great experience is no matter where you go. I mean,
That's
the
true.
customer service and knowing how to treat other people and working together with your family, which is not always easy, I'm guessing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also
They're
Vic,
important lessons.
yeah,
They
Vic
are.
knew how
Yep.
to repair instruments, and he would teach me how to do things even with accordions. So, you know, because we could not afford a repairman, so here's Vic repairing a clarinet or a saxophone, and I'm watching him, and then it would come to the accordion. You know, people have problems with accordions, so here's him in there fixing, and I'm learning that. So now, since Corinne's running it, if she needs something repaired, and if our repairman is busy, then yes, she says, "Mom,
Yeah.
you have to help me
Yeah.
out."
It's like you said, Dan. You know, Mom does everything.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Corinne, I wonder if we could talk a little bit about your position. And did you always think that you were going to be part of the store?
I pretty much did. Although, you know, when I was younger, I was in some rock band. You know, just kind of thinking, oh, maybe that would be great. But always, I loved teaching. And I did go to the University of Alberta and took a B.Ed for education. So I learned all the instruments, so all of them, so I could teach in a junior high school band. But I actually didn't ever want to teach in a high school or junior high band. I much prefer the one-on-one music lessons, so that's mostly what I focused on. But I also love working in the store. I love selling instruments, love talking to people. Yeah, so it's been really great. It's like really great for the brain, because just, you know, doing all of it keeps you young, really.
That's true.
And I wonder, what are your thoughts about, are there uniquenesses of owning a music store in Canada, in your estimation?
Well, it's the industry's changed so much because of online sales and yeah, and also a lot of young people are more interested in sort of beats and like a whole different type of music than even when my folks started in the 60s, and even going, like, it's changed a lot. But
Yeah.
but the one thing that seems to be constant is people still love music. So it's like, you know, just trying to I guess adapt to this current, you know, what's going on now, and kind of keep the music rolling. The other thing that we've noticed is with our students, a lot of seniors are wanting to do lessons just to keep their brain focused and thinking about, you know, music, which is such a enjoyable thing to be doing and learning. So
Well, she has me teaching now again.
yeah, and Mom is once again, she's back teaching.
at it.
So yeah, and I think her oldest student now is 77, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
77.
Yep. So, and then we do have young students too, which is good. Like, I think we got to keep music going. So, I think that is really important.
So it appears to me that your most famous staff member is Elvis Presley.
Yeah, there he is. That's well, Mom loves Elvis, so
Oh, yeah, yeah,
we figured we
yeah.
better put Elvis in that
Yeah.
shot.
But we don't have the Beatles up there.
Yeah, but yeah, and Elvis
That
was,
was,
still
yeah.
popular when you started, but
Yeah,
but
but
of
the
course
Beatles
the
were-
Beatles were like the big
big deal.
group in the 60s.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, what other trends do you remember that were important to business, such as when the Beatles came? Were there others that come to mind?
Well, guitar and drums really hit, you know, big time, and bass guitar. Yeah, and
yeah, and then I think in the
yeah.
80s a lot of synthesizers were
Yeah.
really popular.
that's true.
Yeah, and,
That's right.
And then drum machines, and then later than that, then all of a sudden it was like DJ stuff, because we used to sell a lot of PAs and did PA rentals. So, so we had so we've kind of changed depending on what the focus has
That's
been
true.
for
That's true.
what people have wanted. So
Which is probably why you're still in business.
that's right. That's why 60 years later we're still celebrating. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's an
Yeah.
amazing milestone. How wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
that
true.
is wonderful, Dan. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
thank you.
We're really happy about this, And Dad was really happy about it too.
Well, he knew about all the T-shirts. They had, you know.
Because Les made sure we got this right early, so you know, for 60 years.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your staff, if you would.
Well,
We had excellent staff. Yeah, you know, and lots of them just stayed, probably the longest they stayed was 10 years with us.
10,
yeah.
Although our tech's been here 15
Oh,
years
yeah,
now.
he's still here.
So we've had a
That's
lot of
true.
staff have, you know, learned a lot, because Dad would always make sure everybody would get some sales training. So then we'd be listening to sales tapes, or, you know, try to improve what a person knows. So so a lot of the staff have stayed, and a lot of them that didn't stay went on to open up their own businesses in different fields as well, or in the music field. So I would say it was instrumental even for launching other people's careers, and even professional musicians' careers too, from lessons.
Oh, lots of them.
A lot
yeah.
of them have gone on to be professional musicians or teachers.
That's true.
So this store has launched a lot of people in the music business.
That's right.
And it continues to.
That's right, Corinne.
That's a great thing to be able to say. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I'm also kind of curious from the historical point of view, if you could help me understand a little bit of your competition when you first started, and how that has changed.
Well, some of the competition, you know, the owners died off and the store quit. We're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But accordions were big in the 60s. Like that was, there was quite a few
lots
accordion
of accordion
stores, I think.
schools.
In Edmonton, schools
Accordion
in Edmonton.
schools.
You know, I'm not sure about in the States, but maybe it was big there too.
Sure.
But here, there's a lot of accordion schools.
But that died off, and then we were into the rock and roll business here.
Yeah. So Mom and
different.
Dad, they opened up at the perfect time, you know, with the rock and roll.
Yeah.
Although we do sell accordions, and we're one of the few places in the
Probably
city
the only
that
place.
does sell accordions, and we do repairs on accordions. So, and we teach accordion lessons.
That's true.
But we also teach guitar, piano, all kinds of other lessons too. But yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but I'd say a lot of the people at that time, they're not around anymore. From
No,
when
they're
you guys
not. They're
started.
not. Lots are like, you know,
Yeah.
the owners either quit or left or died or whatever.
Yeah.
But Corinne is carrying on here. And
That's right. Awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Another thing I've learned about small stores, music stores usually have one or two epic sales, a story that you still talk about years later. Is there anything that comes to mind as a special customer or a customer experience that was meaningful to you?
Well, Joe Perry has been in the
Joe's been
store
lots
like
of times.
several times, and so
Yeah.
the very first time that he came into the store, you know, because when he walks around, he wasn't walking around like a rock star. So my dad just treated him like any of the other customers,
Yeah.
which is, hey, for sure. And then my dad would always write notes, so he's writing down notes. And then finally, I think one of the staff had kind of tipped Dad off. Oh, that's Joe Perry from Aerosmith. And so, but Dad treated him like everybody else, and Joe loved that because he loves old school music stores. So Dad took him on a tour of the whole store, the basement, and the basement was like a whole treasure chest. Dad
That's
had
right.
all kinds of cool stuff in the basement. Not everybody could go down there, but Joe went down there, and he loved it. He
loved it so much.
the
There was
store.
these, what were the speakers that were all checkered?
Yeah,
and
Music Lord
really,
speakers
really
that were
not
checkered.
very, very handsome, and he just loved them. So he bought them.
Yeah, because he was on tour with Cheap Trick, and
So.
And the guy from Cheap Trick really liked
Checkered stuff.
checkered stuff. So So, but anyhow, he the next day he came back and he introduced I think the guys from Cheap Trick to my dad. So it was like, oh my goodness.
But Joe came in lots.
And then,
anytime he was.
Anytime he was on tour after that, and then he bought stuff always from my dad too. Every time
we had the big expensive stuff that was rare.
Yeah,
and
we had
that's
a
what he would
beautiful
buy.
vintage showcase in the store that was behind glass, so people would come just to come look at that showcase because there's just. And so when Joe came in, I think on that first visit, Dad let him try every single guitar that was in that showcase, and he had his videographer guy with him, so he videoed him with playing every single guitar. So it was quite a wonderful visit. And like Mom said, then every time after that they were touring Edmonton
Or Fort McMurray.
He was up in Fort McMurray
came in
one
to
time.
see Vic.
He'd come see Dad. So.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's really, really neat. And you talking about your basement reminded me that when I met your dad, he said, "Oh, I heard that you guys are starting a museum at NAMM." He said, "You know, every year I would come back from NAMM with bags and bags of information and booklets and all that." He
That's
said, "I'm going
right.
to start my own museum and be in competition with you."
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, Dad saved everything.
He did. We've got all the old catalogs going back to the Gibson, Fender, or whatever it
from
was.
when Mom and Dad started.
And we still have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is great. Is there anything else that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
Well, Stevie Wonder was in the store.
Oh yeah,
with,
that was also an epic visit too.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder came in and he was, because like we were talking about with keyboards, we one time we were selling Oberheims and
all kinds of
lots
different.
of really high-end keyboards, and so he had come in to check out. I'm not sure what model it
Well, he
was.
came
was
in
checking
with
out.
his security guys.
Yeah, with his
and-
security, just to check out this keyboard. So he did. He checked it out, and
he ended up buying a harmonica.
yeah, that's right. He didn't buy the keyboard. I guess he just wanted to check it, but he bought a harmonica. So that was quite a big thrill too
Yeah.
for
That
us.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's been lots of Canadian pretty much all of the top Canadian artists have all been through
Came through.
our
yeah.
store as well. And my dad used to have all kinds of pictures on the wall of different bands that had been in. So it was like, it was almost like a museum. You'd come in and you'd see, oh, there's all these bands, and then as the years went on, people would come in and go, oh, there's my dad, or
my mom, or my mom.
or later it's like, oh, that's my grandpa, or it's because it's been so long that with these different bands on the walls. So we put those up on our website, so because we wanted to archive that so that people could still
See them.
see
yeah.
them.
Yeah. No, it's been a
That's
fun
super awesome.
business.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Good stories. You know, I think we should, in honor of Vic, I think we should spin the globe one more time.
Oh, I
yes.
think that's a good
Do
idea.
you want
Here,
to
I'll do it.
Mom's gonna do it.
There we go.
There's
In
the
honor
globe.
of.
Hey, for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go.
You guys are wonderful. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you,
thank
Dan.
you. Thank you,
so
Dan,
much.
and you have a good day.
Yes, thank you.